those experiences, and they're experiencing the experiences. Then they can recall them because of the fact that they then become their experience in this Earth School lifetime, and they can remember them later on. So when we talk about memories, memories are simply going out to get experiences and bring them back. They're not stored. We think of memories as being as stored in the brain. They're not stored. They're simply accessible.
And one of the things that we now know happens is that thanks to Dr. Brian Weiss and people like him, they discovered that people can, but with hypnosis, be brought back to believe that they are still living in a lifetime, in the past or in the future. And once they access that memory, which is either a past memory or a future memory, it feels like a memory, they're able to cure phobias in this lifetime. What that tells us is something which is really, to me, extraordinary. Every epoch of the earth is actually influencing every other epoch. I've done a lot of thinking about this. I'm going to ask Craig what he thinks. But when after this next break, when we come back, I'm going to tell you what I think it means for the history, past and future, of this earth. I mean, we think the earth is important. It's not. It's one of actually many earth schools, as Craig calls them, where parts of this eternal consciousness of which we are an inextricable part have experiences. We plan, so we're all going to different schools basically, but we're all learning essentially the same stuff. When I first began to understand and actually had my own experience with being regressed to a past lifetime memory, which cured my fear of heights, which had become disabling when I was in my late teens, that got me thinking, because clearly each part of what we think of as history is influencing every other part. One of the things they've discovered, and it's this you can find this in Dr. Brian Weiss's Same Soul, Many Bodies. What they discovered is when they progress people to about 200 years from now, it's a very different and devastating time. Now, that shocked me when I then had my first experience of being told by my primary guide what I was supposed to do, which was to write Liberating Jesus. I was given to know that 200 years from now, we were going to have a very bleak time. I mean, people were no longer able to reproduce naturally. There was so much poverty, no one could afford to do it it was just a horrible time, bleak and hideous. Or if we all followed the teachings of Jesus, non-religious teachings, he did not start Christianity, nor did he intend to, clearly. If we followed those teachings, we were going to have heaven on earth in 200 years. So the way that interfaced with what had been learned separately by the people doing future life progressions kind of freaked me out, and it got me thinking, what does that mean that we now can influence the past and influence the future? I think I know what it means. It means that what we are doing now is changing the history that we think has happened and is in our history books. For example, and I've given this in a blog post, this example, Christopher Columbus burned at the stake 100 Native American chieftains when they refused to this tells you a lot about Christianity. When they refused to convert, he burned them alive at the stake. So I wonder, was that really harsh thing he did something that didn't actually, quote, objectively happen, but instead all of the terrible negativity of the 20th century. I mean, think of one of the worst centuries in all of history is the one that we've just escaped. Maybe all of that negativity, maybe if you were to have read a history book 100 years, 200 years earlier about what Christopher Columbus did, maybe he just got them all together in a hut and he lectured them that they had to become Christian, but he didn't harm them. Maybe it was the negativity of the 20th century that caused that more extreme event. Maybe if we all do begin to follow the truth, which is what Jesus brought us, only it's a non-Christian truth, has nothing to do with Christianity. Maybe if we all do what my guide Thomas, who once was Thomas Jefferson, says we must do now, maybe if we do that, we'll be able to change all of history, not what comes, but what's already happened. So this is how I'm starting to think. What do you think, Craig? Am I totally off the wall?
No, you've got it right. In 1905, Einstein wrote a paper on the general theory of relativity, and what he postulated was, based on his prompting from his teacher, actually, Hermann Minkowski, postulated that there is a space-time, it's a joining of space and time, and that what we call time, instead of being in an era, which means going from the past to the present to the future, it really is in a block. And so everything that happens is in this block. And you can go to anywhere in that block and you can grab whatever's there. So in the block someplace is in Columbus's escapades, they are in that block. But also then the future is in that block. And that block exists, it is there, and you can access anything out of it. You can go in and grab a piece of it and experience it. So what that means then is that the entire block is being shaped as we go through experiences. And so then the past is being shaped and the future is being shaped. They're both in that block that's being shaped. And so what happens in the present time influences the past, influences the future. And what happens in the future influences us today. What happens in the past influences us today. And
Isn't that amazing?
It's all malleable. It's all changing. And what that means is that when we have a more compassionate, loving humankind, when we grow into that as human beings, then that will change the past. And that will change the future. Because of the fact that it's all malleable. It's all changing at all times.
Do you see the difference between Craig and me and why we make, I think, such a good team? Because he does the serious research, which I just don't have the patience to do. And I do the thinking like a child. What does this mean? And where does this go? I mean, I really think that Einstein was right. Obviously, how would I know? But I really believe that once we all have raised our spiritual vibrations enough, which is what the effort is now, when we go and open a book about history, there will have been no wars. There will have been, if you don't like the past, you can change the past of all of humankind. You can make it so that when the first Cro-Magnon encountered the first Neanderthal, when that first encounter happened, they didn't throw stones at one another, but instead they fell into one another's arms in love. And everything that happened after that was love. That's the most power you can possibly imagine, and it's your power. All you have to do, I think, is to be one of those who raises the spiritual vibration of this world enough that we can, I mean, doesn't it give you the shivers, Craig, to think that this is all possible?
Yeah, it really is exciting, and it really is shivering. It really makes a difference in you as a human being to realize that this is true. And that's why we're having the symposiums. That's why we're having the symposium in September. What we're trying to do is to help people to understand this, and by helping people to understand these truths about the afterlife, about the nature of reality, we're going to help those people to change, and they're going to help other people to change. And the word is going to get out, and we're going to be changing humankind one individual at a time. And as we become more loving and compassionate, this consensual reality, this dream we're having together, will become a loving and compassionate dream.
Absolutely. So tell people, just many people listening, the symposium in September will be long past. But if it isn't, when you're listening, well, tell people, we're talking about a symposium in September 2018. Tell people briefly about that, just how they would learn more about it and how they would perhaps sign up to go.
Sure. The symposium is going to gather together the experts in the field in afterlife communication, an understanding of what the reality is and what this life is, and various things such as past life regressions. And we're bringing them all together. There are going to be 38 experts coming together to speak about all of these things and to help people to learn how they can connect and how they can have this information that will change their lives. It's going to be in Scottsdale, Arizona, September 13th through the 16th of this year, and then
2018. Yes. No. So what is the website so they can learn more?
The website is afterlifesymposium.org. It's a .org, but it's afterlifesymposium.org.
And what if people want to reach you? What if they just want to be able to reach you? How would they do that?
Yeah, what they can do is they can go on youreternalself.com, youreternalself.com, and there's contact information to get in touch with me. And I'd love to talk to people, so anybody can anytime send me an email, and I will correspond.
Thank you so much, Craig. We're going to do this again soon. Meanwhile, everyone, this has been Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes, and I'm so glad you could be with us today for our 5-year anniversary. Please never forget that you are a powerful, eternal being. You never began, and you never will end. And when you really understand all the implications of that, believe me, it changes everything in your life for the better. Next week, our guest will be Serena Baptista, who is an author, and she's a psychic medium. I met her in Denver when I was there for my March trip. She's a lovely young woman. She's a gifted medium and, frankly, a very entertaining and dynamic speaker. She discovered her psychic gifts through the passing of her 7-year-old son in March of 2007. Now, Serena was amazed to discover that her son had really not died after all. He told her that this was all part of their plan, and he led her to begin an amazing voyage and develop her mediumship gifts. Her most recent book is called My View from Heaven, and it was co-authored with her son, JT. Please join us next week. Discover what is really a beautiful, eternal mother-son partnership. And of course, this week our guest for the 21st time has been our precious friend, Dr. R. Craig Hogan. I think he understands what we're calling the physics of the greater reality really better than anyone else who's now in a body. And he and I enjoy exploring, as you can see, all the implications of this. It's really boggling, but it's true. It all fits. Nothing that you perceive with your bodily senses is objectively real or solid. The greatest scientists know that. They knew it. They've known it for 100 years. We're living in what you might want to call a gigantic virtual reality game, all in our minds. And the hardest part of all for us to understand is the fact that there's no such thing as objective time. That has confounding implications. We're still trying to understand all that means. But eventually, once you become comfortable with time, I think you're going to find everything else makes more sense. If you ever want to talk with me about any of my books or anything, just if you want to talk about anything at all, you can always contact me through robertagrimes.com. I do answer every email. Sometimes it takes a few days, though, now, because I get so many. Just be sure you give me your right email address. Meanwhile, please, this has been Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Please come back and keep coming back because we have a long voyage still ahead. But for now, please enjoy and make the most of this coming week in our one reality, knowing that you in particular, are a powerful, eternal being by definition. You never began, you never will end. You are a powerful, eternal being. And most of all, please know that you are infinitely loved.
You've been listening to Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Roberta blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Join us every week as we explore what the afterlife evidence and modern science combine to tell us is true about the one reality we all share. Knowing the truth changes everything.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.